Well, welcome back. And I told you to be interested in this one. I'm going to put out the tip jar right now, and Ted will put out, and we'll flip the screen. You know, when you buy your coffee, how they flip the screen at you now, and we'll just ask you for a tip. All we're doing is asking you for a tip. That's all we're asking. That's the issue we're going to be discussing is this tipping, and someone has labeled it the tipping epidemic, and I don't know that that's wrong. This is Ted. You go. I was telling Ted when we were doing the pre podcast here about I was out buying my wife a donut, and literally the person handed me two donuts. That's what they did. Mm-hmm. And they turned and I pay for it with my card, and they turn the screen around that says, how much tip do you want to leave?
Well, wait, first didn't they just like hand you the screen, you swiped, and then it was like the total is, and then do you want a tip?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. You
it's just programmed in, and then it's usually like a trifecta, like 15, 7, 15, 20, 25. But lately it's been at 20, 25, 30.
Yeah, it's insanity. It is absolute. And I hate that. Now, also, having traveled throughout Europe, especially France, where they don't have tipping, because, well, they actually pay their employees a living wage.
Well, yes.
And they have national health care too. So you don't have to worry about that expense. Am I just being a crotchety old capitalist here, Ted? Or is this, I know it pisses off a lot of people, and many people who are way nicer than I am.
Well, I mean, it doesn't piss me off. I've been a bit taken aback. And I think things got really out of control during the pandemic, when we were really worried that all of our local restaurants and cafes and bars were going to go out of business. So we started, I don't know about you, but people who, like me, were constantly like tipping like crazy because we just kind of wanted to subsidize these businesses and keep them around. And now the perception, rightly or wrongly, is that they are no longer in the pandemic is over. They have businesses back to normal. I don't own a business like that, so I don't know whether that's true or not. But my perception is, okay, the crisis is over, but the tipping regime, the programming that has gone into it is crazy. I was reading a very enlightening, elucidating article, I forget where they interviewed a lot of people who worked in businesses like that. And they said, look, we don't get paid much. If you don't tip us, we're going to fucking starve. We're just not going to make it. And so basically my boss doesn't pay me enough, so y'all have to pay. And I think what's going on here, Scott, is that there's a disjunct between, like, basically we all kind of thought we knew the rules about tipping. Like, you tip your taxi driver, you tip your hair cutter, you tip your waiter. But at a restaurant, you don't tip if you go up to get it to go. Or
right.
And
but you do now. You do now.
And that's what's changed, is that you're being asked to tip for services that you were never taught by your very wise parents to tip for. And so there's been no education of the public. They've just been like, they're suddenly being presented with this, well, obviously, aren't you going to tip? And the numbers sort of presuppose, right? The suggestion, if let's say it's 20, 25, and 30, the suggestion is that 25% is an average tip, 20% is a mediocre tip, and 30% is a reward for good service. Well, okay, that may be true. I don't know. But that wasn't true when I was growing up. When I was growing up, 15% was considered a standard tip for reasonable service. And then like I'd say about 20 years ago, it started to be more, at least in New York City, more like 20%, still 15% in flyover country, I feel like. You tell me, as a flyover denizen.
No,
like 20 years ago, it was 15?
Oh, 20 years ago? Yeah, 15. 10 to 15 really was, especially.
So how about, like, say 5 years ago, pre-pandemic, like a standard tip in Birmingham?
20% if it was good service.
I mean, just decent service, not like above and beyond.
Oh, but that was
Solid,
like good solid service, right?
normal service. Yeah.
Well, you go to different restaurants than I do, I suspect, because good is sometimes pretty rare. Your water is always take care of. They come by a reasonable amount of time to make sure you need anything. If you had a problem with something, they took care of it right away. Stuff like that.
Yeah.
That was
All right.
20%.
Okay. All right. So that is like New York. And then 25 pre-pandemic, 25 was like, holy shit.
Yes.
Like it would
I
have
still
been like,
don't do
well,
it.
like I would say they comped you something would be 25. You got a free drink or something or a free dessert that you didn't pay for.
And if I can
That's
jump in
25.
and say, Janine and I sometimes, because we live in the United States of America where everyone is like so fucking obese. And so the proportions are massive when you go to restaurants now, many restaurants. Janine and I will now just order one entree and split it. So I increased the tip just to compensate that we didn't buy two entrees. So you can't tag the tip to that. So I'm saying there's exceptions, but yeah, 25%. I still don't do that, Ted, unless we do what I just said. But my God, 30%.
Yeah, no, I think that's fucking crazy. So
now we have a mutual cartoonist who had a great line.
I've tipped 30% once, I think.
For what?
I think it might have been for an Uber driver who was just extraordinary. And that's, yeah.
Oh, I have never had one of those. I just, God, when we lived in Chicago, we lived in this place. It was 405 North Wabash. The address is on the building, but North Wabash, it's split. There's upper and lower, if you know Chicago. Not one Uber driver could figure out that they'd have to come on upper Wabash to pick us up. So
well, they just put it into their GPS
and so you see them just going in circles around us like 10 times, and you'd call them and say, we're on upper Wabash. Okay, I'll get you at the upper Wabash. And you just watch them go round and round for another 10 minutes. Like, oh, fuck. I just could call and say, you're in front of my building. Just stop. I'll walk down the stairs, the icy, dangerous stairs, and I'll come to you. Anyway, but so yeah, 30, that must have been a remarkable experience.
Yeah. Well, it wasn't. I remember like it was like raining and he got out and like, he insisted on getting my luggage out of the trunk and like bringing it to me while he got wet in the rain and stuff. So.
Wow. Okay. But we have a mutual friend. I won't name him, but I can say his initials are MT. So you know who I'm talking about, but he's a decent, good guy, but he said this, he says, fuck you. I'm not going to when he goes to a business, says, fuck you. I'm not going to subsidize your bad business practices. And by that, I mean, you're not paying your people enough. So why should I subsidize your greedy decisions?
Well, it's a fair point. The problem is that the person who's paying the price is not the person who deserves to. It's the employee. So it's a no-win situation. You either play along with this stupid fucking system or you fuck over people who aren't just trying to make an honest living.
So what's the solution? Do you ever see us going towards a European model where you don't tip people, where they actually do, these are full-time jobs and they actually pay them accordingly?
It's been experimented with at certain like high-end restaurants here in New York, where they say, like, when you get your bill, please do not tip. Our profit model, our meals are priced accordingly so that you don't have to tip, and we are paying our waiters. The waiters are instructed not to accept tips. It has not caught on. There's a few places that do it. I don't even know if they're still in business or not. It never took off. So I think what happens is that the psychology, it's the psychology that people like to see a low sticker price, even if they know they're being conned. It's like, they're okay. Like, oh, Spirit Airlines, it's only $109 to Florida. I mean, yeah, it's $50 per piece of luggage each way. And like if you and you wanted a seat cushion, that's
Yeah.
40. Seat belt. Oh yeah, sure. Oh, the pilot's sober, that's 100. So like but the point is, but people are like $109. It's awesome. Even if it costs even if my 109 was 509, it's still 109. It works. It's like you go Airbnb. Oh, that Airbnb is only $125 in Montreal. It's so great, except for the $75 cleaning fee and the $25 processing fee. But it was so cheap. So people love to see the low sticker price. So I think when they look at the menu and they say, oh, well, you know, the entrees are 19, that's not so bad. The appetizers are 11, that's not so bad. And they don't think about the fact that they're gonna have to tip 30% if the waiter smiles at them, right?
Yeah.
Otherwise, they're a bad person. So I think it would have to be, I think, instituted by Congress. They would have to,
Wow.
they would have to be a law outlawing tipping. It would have to be just like nobody gets tipped. Then I think if you talked to restaurant owners, a lot of them would be like, I'd be happy to do that. I don't want to be perceived as having higher prices than my competition. I want this to come down from regulation so that my competitors have to do it too.
Yeah, I'm wondering how you could do that.
Although I'm not
Just have-
sure Congress could do it.
Well,
this
but
might
you
be
know-
a state issue.
No, it's a state, local, and national issue because, say it with me, kids, taxes. The taxes, they've totally, you talk about just about as stupid as you can get, Ted, on this issue. That if you do your taxes and you call yourself a server or a waiter, waitress, whatever, there is an added 8% to your total income, presuming the tips. Well,
Right.
and we just said the tips are no less than 15% nowadays,
Unless you're a really shitty waiter.
Yeah.
The worst service I ever got, I was a young man. The woman spilled coffee all over me and didn't care.
What did she do?
What?
What do you mean? She was like walking by?
Literally, like it was a diner, and she kind of like dropped the cup of coffee from about 6 inches above the table, and it bounced off the saucer, and the entire thing went all over me. And she looked at me like, So, and that wasn't even the only thing she did. So I let this was in the days when we still had subway tokens here in New York, and as opposed to a Metro card. So I left her a token and a note, and I said, "Take this and get the fuck out of town."
Did she?
I didn't see her like a couple months later, but I hadn't been in for a while. So I don't think she took my advice.
It's a really tangled issue, particularly from the tax perspective. I think you have to. I'm not going to support this, but I'm going to propose it. You have to.
That's very Weasley of you.
Thank you. I could run for office. I should get that
really
nomination.
Good. You're really good.
You have to say you can really put the number of employees under your jurisdiction. Only X% can be part-time. So, and they try to bullshit it now. In the United States, they try to say, okay, you work 37 hours. It's 3 hours less than 40, obviously. So you're not a full-time employee. So I don't have to give you medical. I don't have to give you dental. I don't have to give you all the benefits. I think that's where we're really starting to get hurt, and where, we don't have an economy. We don't have a country where if you work full-time, and Ted, this should be it. This is this was it when we were kids. We were talking about it in the first segment. If you had a full-time job, you could afford your life. If you worked 8 hours a day at anything, if you were a waitress or I'm trying to think.
You couldn't live luxuriously, but you could pay your bills.
You could have an apartment. You could buy food.
Right.
The chances are you might even be able to afford a shitty car. But that's not true nowadays. That simply is not true. I was mentioning earlier, I'm teaching now at the university, and adjunct, of course, and talking to other adjunct professors who are teaching 3, 4, 5 classes a week. They still have a part-time job because those teaching 5 college courses, the future leaders of America, doesn't pay enough for them to live.
No, it's an outrage.
And again, it's not living exorbitantly. It's not living, in like a mansion. It's not living in a huge house. It's like saying, can you afford a 2-bedroom apartment in Birmingham, fucking Alabama? And they can't. There's something wrong with an economy that does that. And I'm not sure. I know you have an answer to how we could fix that. I'm not sure I'd subscribe to that. I'm trying to think of a better way. I'm not sure what it is, other than I thought, and now we're going to dive into economics. I'm sorry. I did think that the great resignation, and the fact that we still have a ton of jobs that people won't take, and that this generation coming up, God bless them, won't take the bullshit anymore. I thought that would significantly change the economy of employment in this country, and it hasn't. The moneyed interests, the employers don't and will not change. They're insisting people come back to the office, for instance. There is no loyalty. So why would I be loyal to you? Because you're not going to be loyal to me. Farmers Insurance, for instance, just laid off 11% of its workforce because, why not?
Farmers, bum, ba-dum, bum, bum.
Yeah, we will fuck you if you work for us, bum, bum. Yeah, that kind of hits a little close to home. Some family members got affected by that this past week. My point is, Ted, that in France, they have strong employment laws. And most of the economies in the rest of the civilized world are not part-time economies. And I don't know, how can you change that? Do you just pass the law? Or is that the only way?
There's no other way, because it's not going to just happen. It's sort of like, seriously, can you imagine a scenario under which that happened organically or voluntarily? The problem is, I think you're also looking at employers, many of whom would prefer to pay higher wages to their employees, but they can't. Most bosses aren't evil. They like their employees. They work with their employees. They know them. They might even know their families. But let's just say I'm running Ted Corp, and I want to give a raise to all the employees at Ted Corp because they're doing such an awesome job TEDing every day. But then I'm like, oh fuck, the thing is, my costs are going to be way up. I'm going to have to hike my prices for the TEDs that I sell at Ted Corp. And then that asshole over at Scott Corp, he's going to undercut me, and he's still going to get all my business. He's going to eat my lunch. And so I'm going to go out of business. Ted Corp's gone because Scott Corp has the ability to sell Scott's at a lower price than Ted's. And so that's the issue. But if the government comes in and says, hey, Ted, Scott, you've both got to raise your wages to $25 per hour and up, then we're on a level playing field. And I know that, I don't have to worry about you undercutting me on your payroll. And I think that's why it has to come from the government. There's just no other way.
Well, like I said, I was hoping that this coming out of the pandemic would change things. For instance, just something as simple, Ted, as working from home. The gig economy, and that they discovered that during the pandemic, people were equal to or even more productive when they worked from home.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But for some weird, otherworldly reason, they're insisting that people come back to the office so they can see them. That's really the only reason to do that. So we can actually see that you are there doing your job. Yeah. It's but the evidence is that I did the job from my home without you having to see me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we want to see you. Why? Because we love you? What other reason could they possibly give? That's just part and parcel of how and that's falling apart. That whole model of the overlord employer. That's you and I won't see it.
No.
but it's coming. That day is coming, and that day is over.
Yeah.
You know, you just do what I say because I said so, or you lose your job. Oh, okay, I quit. You know, yeah, and I actually think that's a very good trend. So,
Agreed.
So Ted, where can we see all things Ted?
Well, you can see some of it at raw.com, whowhatwhy.org, sputniknews.com, gocomics.com/Ted Rall, and you can listen to the final countdown on Radio Sputnik, which I co-host with Manila Chan Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. to 12 noon, or you can also check
That's
it out
Eastern
on
time.
Eastern, that's right. American time. Patriotic time.
That's
Good time.
I like patriotic time.
America time.
America. Okay. Well, and if you want to see some of my stuff, you can go to gocomics.com/prickly city, where you can see my comic strip. You can go to gocomics.com/Scott Stantis, see my editorial cartoons. You can hear Ted and I on Center Clip, which are mini podcasts, 30 seconds to no longer than 5 minutes on various topics of the day. Ted went off on a tear yesterday. How many did you post?
Oh my God, like 4?
Jesus. Okay. So you got,
what can I say?
okay. Yeah. Good. Yeah. That makes me feel better. You were on the floor. Jesus. Well, were you texting too? That's fantastic. So Center Clip, you guys should check it out. Go to centerclip.com. And of course, right here on the DMZ America podcast. Ted, thanks for everything. We'll talk to you next time.
Indeed. Talk to you soon.
All right. Bye, guys.
Right. Bye.